Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. We're going to carry on and get this bloomin' governor finished. We got some little things to do around here, a little gear and that, so let's get on. Right, so I think the first thing I'm going to do, we got to make a little gear here. So we'll get on and do that. I've got to make a little blank first. It says here we can use a clock gear. Well, I haven't got one of those, so we're going to make one. I've got a 0.5 module cutter, which will make a little gear. Right, so first I've got a bit of brass the right size for the blank for my little gear. I'm going to put the hole through the center first, which will be on the, which will slide onto the shaft then. Right, now I can set this little bit up in the milling machine on the dividing head and cut the gear teeth. Right, that little gear there, I'm going to make a 16 tooth gear for the size of it. Now, the book that come with the dividing head says 16 tooth. The dividing plate there, it says I should have a 20 hole, and then it should be 2 full turns and 10/20ths. Now I don't think that's right, because for the 17 hole they've got exactly the same. So I'm going to work that out myself by... Right, so you start off with the ratio of your dividing head. Well, mine is 40. And then we go over the amount of teeth, which I'm going to do 16. There, my pencil's broke. Hang on a minute. So the 16 tooth I'm going to use, not that plate, this plate here. I'm going to work it out using the 16 holes there. So you've got 16s into 40 go 2, which leaves 8. So, according to this, I should be using 16 holes. And we're going to do 2 full turns. Once we've cut the first tooth, we're going to do 2 full turns. 1, 2, and then we're going to go 8 of those holes. And you never count that hole with the pin in it. I'll show you in a minute when I set it up. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. The pin on your dividing head will go there. You cut the next tooth and then so on. Hopefully that's right, and I'm going to go by that and not the book. I'll just get this on the mid-dividing head. So there we've got this set up. The pin there I'm calling 0, so I would cut the first tooth on the bar, on the gear, and then it will be 2 full turns, 1, 2 and 8. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. That will be your second gear, and this here just helps you when you've got that set right to swing that round, touch the pin there. When you do your 2 full turns, that's where your next pin will be around there. Right, so just now I've got all this set parallel, and I've got the cutter set to the center of my bar. Then I've now got to move the cross slide to the depth of the cut. Well, I use, where is it? I use this book here, and for a mod 0.5, here's the page. Everything you need to know about gear cutting is in this little book. Right, so I'm using a modular 0.5, and the depth of the cut is 0.042 of an inch, or if you're like new money, 1.08 millimeters. I'll just get the depth of the cut set up. Right, so I've got the depth of the cut set right. I'm just going to cut the first tooth, nice and gentle. Beautiful. Now I've got to turn that. 2 full turns and 8 of the 16 holes. Right, so 1, 2 and round to the pin there. Spin that round. Hopefully we're going to be right. One, two, and then back round there. Right, I've just cut the rest of the teeth. Right, this is the last two. Beautiful. Right, now I can put this back in the lathe and part it off how wide I need the gear. Right, so that is the gear. I was right to not go with the book. That's a lovely little gear, that. Right, let's part it off. Right, that's that parted off. Where has that gone? I'll just find that. Right, so there's a nice little gear. I'll just put that on the shaft where he's got to go. Right, so I've got that little gear on the shaft. Next thing we got to do, on that part of the shaft there between the gear and the little fork, there's a 1/4 inch outside diameter tube, and it's got a spring inside, and the ends of the spring are bent out straight, and I've got to put a little hole in the side of that part and in the gear, and then put it all together. So let's find it. I've got a bit of tube somewhere. Right, so I've got a little bit of tube there. There's the gear. Next thing, I've got to put a spring. If you look there, inside the tube, and each end of the spring is straightened out. Well, I've got this little spring here. This is from a click pen, you know. So now what I've got to do is take that apart. Let's take that out. On the end of there, I've got to drill a little hole in this end of that so the spring fits in there. And on the gear, I've got to drill a little hole so the spring fits in there, and then that all goes together. So I'll just drill these little holes. I don't think you need me to show you that. Right, so I've drilled a little hole in the end there and in the gear. I've got the gear on the shaft already with the spring there. Now I've got to get the start that bit on there. It's a bit tricky to get together. Oh, there, now that gear's come off. Get that spring in that little hole. Right. Right, I finally got that on. The spring is in there, that's a hell of a job. But it's done now, that part's finished. Next thing we got to do is that part there. So I got to make a little shaft to go in that hole there. And they've got a bit of stud in there. So I'll make a little bit of brass studding. And a little brass knob to go on the end there. Nearly there. Well, I'm just going to start making the little brass knob. First of all, I'm going to put a little thread on there so it'll screw on the shaft. I've threaded the shaft already on one end. And then when I get the right length, I can cut that off and thread the other end. So I'll just put a little thread on there. Just change the drill for an 8BA. Right, now I've got to tap that. Just try that shaft in there. Beautiful. Right, so that's that shaft. What I'll do now is I'll probably just knock the corner off of this back edge, and then as I part it off, I'll round off the other end. Right. Right, I'm just going to knock that back corner off. Right, I think I'll get a little foil on there. Beautiful. Now what I'll do is I'll pull that out. I think I've got a little ground cutter which I can, as I part off, will make that into a nice little round ball. I'll just find that. Right, so I've got this little curved cutter. I'll just put that on, start parting off a little bit, and then change it to that to round the corner off. Right, I'm going to swap the cutter now and see if I can put a little radius on there. Not doing what I want. I've just put that cutter in and take the back corner off. I'll file it up round later. Well, just find that and put that on the shaft. Right, so there's the little knob. Now we've got to make a little bit of studding to go in there. So we'll just do that. I'm just making a little bit of studding. Oh, I expect that's more than enough. I'll just part that off. Oh no, I've got to drill it first for the shaft. Right, I can part that off to length now. Right, just find where that went. Right, so there's that little bit of studding in there. All I got to do now is cut that shaft to length and put a thread on there. That'll be that area finished then. Right, so that's that part finished on the governor. The only thing we got to do now, there's a little collar that fits on that shaft there, so when the balls fly out and that goes down, it pushes the fork down a little bit. I suppose the spring in there helps bring that back up when the piston's moving. Right, so let's make the collar. Right, for the collar I'm just going to drill a hole, then I'm going to take the bar out, put it in the milling machine to drill and tap a hole through the side that'll fit onto the shaft. Right, just put that in the milling machine and drill and tap the hole through the side so it will clamp onto the shaft. Right, just put a drill in for the tap. Beautiful. Well, I'll just get the tap. I'll just swap the taps. Right. put that back in the lathe now and part that off. Right, that's that. Now we can put that on the shaft. Right, so I've taken the shaft out. So now we've got to feed that back up through there. And then we've got our little collar which goes on there. So what I've done is I have actually made two. One to go below the fork and one above. Feed that up through there. And one above. Come on. There we are. Right. So what we can do, we get that disc on there again. Right, so I got that disc on, put that lid on. So that's that little bit done, look. So when you squeeze that down, when the balls fly out, moves that arm down a little bit. Obviously that'll probably need adjusting a little bit. Right, let's put the rest on. Here's my little Allen key. Ah, there it is. Put that back in there. Gearing. Right, and put that little Allen screw back on. there we are. So that is the finished governor. Lovely. And I'll just put that on the cylinder head, and that's where it will be, on the cylinder head. Obviously I've got to adjust the arm on here to fit that on there properly underneath. But that's no hardship. Bolt everything on, and with the whistle on the back. Great. I'm very happy now. A lot of work in that little item. I'd like to say a big thank you to Mr. Nick Gratton, who kindly sent me some photos of the governor on his Showman's engine, as the details on the drawing are not that clear. So thank you, Mr. Nick Gratton. Next then I'll sort that out. Once I've got that on, I'll show you that. But now I can start on all the running parts, which would be pistons, valves, eccentrics and that. So please subscribe to my channel and join me as I build a 2-inch scale Fowler Showmans traction engine.